Hi everybody, this is Celeste with Hope Interventions, and I'm a Nationally Certified Interventionist, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about the intervention process and what I do with clients that I'm working with when they want to do an intervention on someone they love. So I start with them by doing the free 30-minute consultation with them, and I'll get some information about them and their situation and what's going on with their family and their loved one. And once they decide that they want to do the intervention after the consultation, we will go through an evaluation process at the beginning of the 6 hours of coaching that I do with families when they're preparing for an intervention. And doing the evaluation with the family members at the beginning of coaching allows me to get to know from everybody's perspective what's going on with their loved one and why they feel that the family needs to do an intervention and what's going on with that person. So during the evaluation, I like to find out what's going on with them medically, what's going on with them from a mental health perspective, what their drug of choice is, how much they're using, how long they've been using, because all those are factors in deciding on a treatment center. So during that process, I will find 2 or 3 different treatment options that I can bring to the family that will meet their person's individual needs and help them most in their recovery process, because everybody's going to be different and they're going to have different needs when they're going to treatment, depending on which drugs they're using, mental health history, medical concerns, and even past trauma that can play a big part in the recovery process. So we're going to want to find a treatment center that is applicable to that person, because there's hundreds and hundreds of treatment centers in Canada. So that in and of itself can be a very daunting task for the family in trying to find the right treatment center for their loved one. So that's all part of the evaluation process and part of what I bring to the family during the course of the intervention. So once we've done the evaluation, we'll continue on with the 6 hours of coaching. And what that includes is going through the intervention structure and what's going to happen at the intervention. Because it's very important to have a structured intervention, because that allows less opportunity for the addict to take control of the intervention. So I work with the family on very carefully scripting and structuring the intervention in a way that is going to increase the likelihood that their loved one is going to go to treatment. So I will teach strategies and tools and skills to the family to make the intervention more successful. So it's very carefully scripted. I have all the family members write a letter to the family that includes why they think the person needs to go to intervention, the consequences of their addiction. So that can include financial consequences, legal consequences, criminal charges, loss of job, loss of marriage, whatever's going on for that person. So I'll get each person to outline those consequences of their addiction, and then I will have them go through and let the person know how much they love that person, because it's very important that that person knows that the intervention is coming from a place of love and non-judgment and compassion. And we want you to go to treatment because we love you. And that is the underlying message of an intervention, is we want this for you because we love you and we don't want to see you die or have very negative consequences such as jail, visits to the psychiatric unit at the hospital. So the underlying message of an intervention is always love. So once people write their letters, I will review it for them to make sure that it's worded in a way that it's going to bring that message across. So that's a very important part of the intervention process, is the structure and the script. So, and that is my job, is to make sure that even when we get into the intervention, that the intervention remains very carefully scripted and structured to give you the best chance of success. So once we've completed the coaching process and we all feel comfortable with the structure and the wording of the letters and the underlying message of love, then we go into the intervention rehearsal. So we will do a dry run of what the intervention is going to look like on intervention day. And I will even, based on the evaluation, I will give them examples of what that person might say is an excuse to not go. So typical excuses are, my substance use is under control, I don't have a problem, what about my job, what about my kids, who's going to look after them, how am I going to pay the bills? And during that process, we are going to have all the answers to those excuses to not go. So if there's kids involved, so-and-so will look after the kids. So-and-so will talk to your boss and make sure that you get the time off. We'll take care of making sure that your bills are paid so that all of the excuses to not go are off the table. So that's what I really work closely with the family on, is coming up with all the reasons why they can't go and counteracting those reasons. So taking the reasons out of the way so that at the end of the day, the only option left is for them to say yes. So that's the intervention rehearsal. Once we get the rehearsal done and everybody feels really, really comfortable with the process, their script, and the structure, then we go into intervention day. So the intervention will follow that carefully scripted and structured process that I will help facilitate. So my job during the intervention is to help people stay on track, because it's very easy to get caught up in the emotion of what's going on. Interventions can be a very emotional, volatile process. So I'm there to make sure that everybody stays on track and that we don't get sidetracked in the emotion of the day. So if I see that somebody's getting off base with their emotions, I just rein them back in. I make sure that it stays controlled, and I try to maintain everybody's emotion in the room. So that's a very important part of the process, is that if the emotion gets out of control, I just bring people back in during the intervention. So like I said, we want to give that person having the intervention every reason to say yes and no reasons to say no. So at the end of the day, they'll have no other option but to say yes. So once they have said yes, I will get that person, get them all ready to go, get them transported to treatment, get them checked into treatment, and then I stay in the area for 24 hours after the intervention, just to make sure that they're comfortable, just to make sure that they've settled in, they feel comfortable with the treatment center, the surroundings, the other clients, the staff, and make sure that they've developed that rapport and that they feel comfortable spending 30 or 60 or 90 days in that treatment center, right? Because it has to be a good fit. So that's what I do immediately after the intervention. And then once I get them settled in, I'll do a debrief with the family, see how the intervention went for them, and make sure that they were comfortable with the process, because it can be very emotional for the family, and the addict as well. So I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with what happened in the intervention, and then if there's any issues or concerns with what's happened, we can talk that through and make sure that everybody's good with what's going on. So that's the debrief after the intervention. And then that's where my role can end, or if the family chooses, there's additional aftercare options. So I can do case management as well. So that would be in the form of following up with the client and the staff at the treatment center, which there would be sign off for as far as confidentiality goes. So that'll involve weekly reports, so I can follow up with the person in treatment and the staff and relay that information onto the family, answer any questions, any issues, any concerns that they're going through. And that will last as long as the person's in treatment, whether it be the 30, 60, or 90 days. The second option is recovery coaching for the addict once they leave treatment. So, because a lot of times living in that treatment bubble, it's very easy to get away from real life and real life issues and what's going on in the outside world. So, a lot of times, addicts after treatment, after they get out of treatment and they're clean and sober, they still need additional support after getting out of treatment to reacclimatize into real life in a functional way, right? Because all they've known prior to treatment is dysfunction and addiction and chaos. So it can be a difficult transition going from that chaos into treatment and then back into real life. So the recovery coaching really helps them to get used to real life in a supported way. So I'll work with them through the first couple months and make sure that they're comfortable, make sure that they're doing well, helping them with tools and strategies to learn to live sober again beyond treatment. The third option is recovery coaching for the family, right? Because a lot of times what happens is when that person's in that addictive mode, the family becomes enablers and they enable that person to stay in that addictive behavior. So the recovery coaching for the family really helps them to learn to not enable to start to form healthy family dynamics. So that's part of the recovery coaching for families, because they have to do their own recovery, because a lot of times the family members are enabling, they're codependent and all that kind of stuff. So we need to learn to help them build up new dynamics and ways of functioning on their own in and of themselves, aside from the addict, right? Because a lot of times enabling that person's behavior can almost become addictive in and of itself. So those are the three aftercare options that I provide post-intervention, and families can do one, two, or all three of them depending on what they feel like they need. So those are some of the services that I provide after the intervention. And if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. My phone number is 250-688-5392. And if you're interested in booking the free 30-minute consultation, I'll